Nick, you and the other six board members of the LAUSD have to provide direction for an entire school system, as John indicated. Perhaps you could start by talking about the scope of that system, who the students are in the LAUSD, and what is it in their profile that you must always consider.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's also a privilege to be here, even if Marianne kind of blew my cover on why I was invited. But it's great to be with all of you, including some I know better than others. But LA Unified is the second largest school district in the country, only behind New York City. But it is the largest district run by an elected board. We have nearly 700,000 students from pre-K to adults. We actually have 60,000 adult students, about 40% of whom are parents of our K-12 students. We have 1,200 schools covering over 700 square miles and 26 different cities, which is one of the things that we'll get into, the challenges with different levels of government. We have 75,000 employees. We're larger than Coca-Cola. And 90% of our students are of color. 92,000 are English learners. We have the largest English learner population in the country, largest undocumented student population in the country. And over 82% of our students are living in poverty. And that was before COVID. And anecdotally, in some surveys we've done for families to kind of assess the economic hardship since March, I think that number, unfortunately, is going to increase. And we have over 18,000 homeless students. And just to put that in context, 99% of school districts in this country have fewer than 15,000 students total. And we have over 18,000 homeless students. So when it comes to even a non-COVID day in LA Unified, those are some of the characteristics that give color to what we're working on.
You said 18,000 homeless, 82% families below the poverty line. Those are in a school district of 700,000 students?
Yep.
Those are staggering numbers. How do you, as a school board, even start into the issues of education? Or does education in some ways, at least in a formal way, have to take a back seat to some of the other issues that you address as a board?
Well, I think the response to COVID, especially in the first few months, is a great articulation of that challenge. Because when I think of the triage that LAUSD entered into, the kind of pedagogical piece, the way we think of education, the 3 R's, was really fifth or sixth on the list. We closed schools on a Friday. We actually closed schools before New York City shut down. We closed schools before LA or the state of California shut down, because we saw the writing on the wall and thinking about the safety of our students and families and employees. And so we closed on a Friday, and by Wednesday, we were running what now is the largest school-based food relief effort in American history. Typically, we have hundreds of thousands of students who rely on the school district, not just for lunch, as many of us remember from school, but we serve breakfast to every student traditionally, and we serve supper to hundreds of thousands of students. And so when we closed on a Friday, by Wednesday, we were operating a food distribution effort that as of today has served over 78 million meals, and not just to students. We made the decision very early on to serve to any community member who showed up at our school hungry. And about 20% of those 77 or 78 million meals are adults. So that was kind of the first wave of triage. And then to Secretary King's point, we realized that over 100,000 families didn't have access to the internet. And so when we thought and knew that schooling was going to move digitally, just like we wouldn't expect kids to be able to learn without a teacher or a textbook, we knew they couldn't learn without a device. And so we made a $100 million investment within a week to procure hundreds of thousands of devices, laptops, Chromebooks, iPads, and also hotspots, because even if kids had devices, they didn't have access to the internet. And as the secretary was saying, it's challenging because there wasn't a coordinated federal program, there wasn't a coordinated state program, and actually the contract that we struck with Verizon for hotspots now has become the basis of not only the state of California's contract with Verizon, but a national contract for school districts. And we spent weeks distributing devices and hotspots. We also distributed headphones. We had students who maybe then had the access to the internet and their devices, but they didn't have a quiet place to study. And that was a Herculean effort, but it was also, as I remind our school district administrators, connectivity, just like student attendance, is a floor. It's not a ceiling. It may be a high floor, but it's a floor, because just because kids are connected doesn't mean that they're necessarily engaged. Then, a more recent, I think, example of how we're going beyond our scope as a school district is we launched, actually under the leadership of our district, but also Secretary King's predecessor, former Secretary Arne Duncan, the first in the nation school-based COVID testing program. So we are providing free COVID tests to every student, parent, and employee in the district as an effort to try to get kids back to school safely and to try to test a really under-tested population given those demographics I mentioned earlier. So, those three things: food distribution, technology and devices, and now COVID testing, not related to classroom instruction, to pedagogy, but three things that we have done since March. In addition to using all these school food distribution centers to also distribute sports equipment, feminine products, diapers, toys. We did Halloween themed masks around the holidays, around Halloween, and are thinking about more that we can do in the coming weeks and months. And that's before you even get to our kids learning and what's happening in the virtual classroom.